Thursday, I had the worst run of my entire training cycle. It was supposed to be an easy run, and those are usually my favorite because they're low pressure. I just, run slowly and take it easy. But from the very first step, my legs felt like cement. I couldn't catch my breath. And I know you guys know I live in Central Florida, so we do get some oppressive heat, but it wasn't that. It was only 71 degrees. With the humidity, I think it felt like 72. Not that. There was really no good reason for that run to feel as hard as it did. But here's what I didn't do. I didn't decide that I'm not a good runner. I didn't decide that I should give up on doing Dopey. And I didn't decide there was something wrong with me. It was just a bad run. And I think understanding why I was able to do that and why I didn't spiral is actually the most important thing that I can share with you today. Because most of us have been taught that the answer to a bad day is just to start over. And I want to talk about why that might be the very thing that's keeping you stuck. Hi, I'm Danny Claire, and welcome back to my channel. This is a place where I share what it actually looks like to build a healthier, stronger, more aligned life. Not the highlight reel version, but the real version, which sometimes includes terrible runs and sometimes lessons you have to learn more than once. So if you're new here, I'm really glad you found this video. Make sure that you hit subscribe so that you don't miss what's coming over the next few weeks. I'm going to be going really deep on some topics that I think are genuinely going to shift things for you. More on that in a minute. But first, I want to ask you something. How many times have you started over with something? With a diet, a workout plan, maybe a habit you've been trying to build for years, with a goal that keeps getting pushed to next Monday, next month, after your vacation, after the holidays, after things calm down. So if you can relate to that and your answer is that you've done this more times than you can count, you're definitely not alone. And I also want to offer you this. The problem might not be that you keep failing. The problem might be that you keep starting over. And those are two very different things. Today, I want to show you why. So let's talk about why starting over feels so good. Because it genuinely does, right? There's something almost like intoxicating about a clean slate, like a fresh new journal, a new plan, new week, new month, new year, January 1st. And when you decide to start over, you get a little hit of something. It's like you get a little hit of possibility, hope, the feeling that this time it's going to be different, and that feeling is real. I'm not dismissing it. The problem is what usually comes next. So before I keep going, if this is already resonating with you, I just want to make sure that you're subscribed because we're going deep on this all month. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to be talking about confidence, about thoughts that hold us back, about how to actually create a life that you're excited to wake up to. You don't want to miss it, so hit subscribe and let's keep going. So I want to talk to you about something I struggled with for a long time because I think it's one of the best illustrations I have of what I'm talking about today. I have shared about this before, but most of you know that for years I did have a complicated relationship with alcohol, and I tried to change that more than once, not because I was weak or because I didn't want it badly enough, really more because I kept approaching it the wrong way. There would be a moment, maybe I'd said something embarrassing in front of other people, or maybe I'd woke up feeling awful a few days in a row, or maybe I just got to that place where I felt like I don't want to do this anymore, and so I would decide to stop. But then life would happen, and I would find myself back where I started. It wasn't like a clean restart cycle. It was more like a tug of war between knowing something needed to change and not quite being ready to make it stick. When I eventually came to understand was that a big part of what I was using alcohol for was confidence. I wanted to feel more comfortable in social situations, to relax, manage stress, and until I could find better ways to handle those things, I was always going to struggle because I was trying to remove something without replacing what it was doing for me or what I thought it was doing for me. So what finally worked was just trying it for 30 days. I didn't commit to it forever. I didn't say I'm never drinking again. I just decided to try it for a month and see what happened. And after that month, I felt so good and I just decided to keep going. That was more than 4 years ago now, and I really haven't looked back ever since. But here's what I want you to notice about that story. The shift didn't come from, a perfect restart. It didn't come from, hitting rock bottom or, having some sort of epiphany. It just came from continuing from one small decision that I just continued to make over and over again. The version of me who got to 4 years without alcohol is not someone who made a perfect decision. I just decided to keep showing up, and when it got hard or I didn't feel like it, I just kept continuing. Continuation is a skill, and that's something that almost no one really talks about. So that brings me back to last Thursday's run. Come to find out the next morning, I was getting a little bit sick. I woke up not feeling well. I use my Oura ring to track like my heart rate, my sleep, and everything, and it showed that something was straining my body. I'm pretty sure I had a fever. I was definitely fighting something off, and so of course I felt awful when I was trying to run. But in the middle of the run, I didn't know that, and I just knew that it was hard. So I had some thoughts that came, and I want to be honest about that because I think people sometimes assume that if you've done enough personal development, the hard thoughts stop showing up, but they never do. So I was thinking, maybe I'm losing fitness, or maybe I'm not a good runner. Maybe Dopey is just way more than I can handle. Maybe something's wrong. Like, all of those things definitely showed up. But what I didn't do was give them any credibility. I just sort of I let them come, pushed them aside, and just kept going. And that's the distinction I really want you to sit with, because our thoughts are not always true. We don't have to listen to them just because they pop into our heads. And a thought popping up doesn't mean that it's true or accurate. So I didn't decide that I wasn't a good runner, and I definitely didn't decide that I should give up on Dopey. I just had a bad run, and that's it. That's the whole story. So there's a version of me, like the earlier version, the one who hadn't really learned all of this stuff yet. I hadn't learned the difference between a hard day and a verdict about my future. I would have used that run as evidence. I would have used it as a reason to start over, or waiting till next week, or maybe wait until official Dopey training begins at the end of this month. And I would have lost that run and all the momentum I've been building. I really just had a bad Thursday. That's all. So when we're talking about all of this, what does it actually look like in practice? How do you build the skill of just continuing instead of constantly starting over? And I think the first step is really changing the question that you ask yourself after you have a hard day or a hard time. Instead of, do I need to start over, ask, what's the right next step? And that's it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a big deal, just the right next step. So for example, if you missed a workout, your next right step is your next scheduled workout, not a punishment, not doubling up or anything, just the next workout. If you went off plan with your eating, your next right step is your next meal. Not, next Monday or after the weekend. You just go on to your next meal and get right back on plan. If you feel like you've lost ground because you had a hard week, you haven't. Progress is not linear, and I know I've said this before, but the graph of real growth usually looks like a curly Q or like an up and down. It's not a straight line like this. You're going to have tough days, and there are hard times within, good weeks, good months. You're always going to have those difficult times, and that's where the downs come from. So what the people who make real progress have in common isn't that they never fall off. It's just that they never use falling off as a reason to erase everything and just start over. They return quickly without drama or a big announcement. They just come back and keep going. That is the skill, and you can learn it, and I know that because I've learned it myself. So I want to share one more thing with you before I wrap up today. I am currently in the process of building a new website for myself, DannyClaire.com, and I want to tell you a little bit about what it is and why I'm doing it now, and I promise it ties into this. So for a while, I felt like I was a little all over the place. I was doing Substack and YouTube and all these different social media platforms, and nothing was really connecting. So Also, the idea of building a big website just felt like overwhelming and just a huge project that I probably should just wait on until I had it all figured out. But I'm not waiting. I've decided I'm going to build it now while I'm still figuring it out, because everything I've just talked to you about for the last, 15 minutes or so, it applies here too. So, waiting for the perfect moment is just, it's like a more sophisticated version of starting over. It's still the same pattern, still postponing the thing you actually want to do until you feel ready. DannyClaire.com is going to be like a home for everything I do: articles, reflections, resources, a place where all of it lives together, like under one roof. And I think it's going to be really cool when it comes together. So I will definitely share when I have it ready. Also, want to mention my Dopey challenge journey. If you're not familiar, it's a four race challenge that is like progressive. So it's a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon. I'm also doing it to raise money for the American Cancer Society, and so I will also pop that link below. So here's what I want you to take away from today. You don't need another fresh start. You just need to learn how to continue. So the next time you have a hard day, if you're a runner, if you have a bad run, if you miss a workout, if you just have a week or a day that didn't go as planned, I just want you to remember that a bad day is just a bad day. It doesn't mean anything. It's not evidence that you can't do any of this. And it's no reason to erase all the progress you've made. It's just a bad day. And I think the most powerful thing you can do is just wake up the next day and keep going. Progress belongs to the people who keep coming back, not the people who start perfectly. It's the people who come back. So if this video helped you today, please share it with somebody who needs to hear it, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next week.